thank you all for coming. I realise that I stand between you and your lunch, so this is a big challenge for me, and whether we're excellent speakers will be judged later on, perhaps. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about CIWM, the organisation I work for. I'm going to give you a bit of an overview about the industry, some numbers. We can argue about those a bit later on. Some of the targets and policies from the UK. The treatment technologies which we apply in the UK, which might be also applicable overseas, exportable, shall we say. Some of the overseas opportunities that face us, and some of the work that we've specifically done as an institution with DIT and with overseas opportunities and selling UK expertise overseas. So CIWM. Well, we're a member organisation. There's about 6,000 of us. I see some of our members about me. And our members come from across the sector, public sector, private sector, academics, government officials, even consultants. And the whole idea is that we have that spread of intellectual input, and we use that for all our activities. Principally scientific and technical and training. We've been a training organisation for over 50 years. We do a lot of external liaison because we sit on, dare I say it, that high moral ground. We're funded by our commercial activities and our subscriptions, and so with that we can be a critical friend of government, which is very important for us. We do a lot of our technical work through our special interest groups, and anyone can join the special interest groups. We like to think that it is experts and also those new to the sector. So if you suddenly become responsible for one of these issues, these treatment methodologies or these waste types, then you can join the special interest group and learn a lot more about that aspect of the industry. Also, because we have this spread of expertise, it means that we can respond to consultation papers, guidance documents, and government draft documents, again from that high moral standpoint. So some numbers. This is waste generation in England. Again, we can argue till the cows come home about the numbers, but by and large, the vast majority is construction waste, which we're very good at recycling. I'll speak about that later. And the focus of attention tends to be on the 13%, which is household waste, because that's what we have the most accurate information about, and that's where our targets are for meeting recycling targets. Generation by sector, because of the industry we have in the UK, it's swinging away from manufacturing towards service industries, and that has effect on the waste generation, the opportunities for recycling or reuse, etc., etc. And here we are. This is a couple of years ago in England. Household waste. You see, unfortunately, waste arisings are starting to increase again, which is a bit disappointing because at the top of the hierarchy, waste prevention should be what we're about. But we're reducing the amount of waste that goes to landfill. We're recycling more, and there's more of that waste material going back into a circular economy. Now, I'm not very keen, that's an under exaggeration, I'm definitely not keen on comparative statistics across Europe because we use different definitions and different data. However, when it shows the UK in a good light, I'm all in favour of comparative statistics. So here we have a very confusing spider's web. The what is called turquoise colour is 2001 statistics, and the brown orangey colour is 2010. So you see the increase in recycling rates, particularly for the UK, are quite dramatic there. Now you could say we started from a low point, which is true, but we are now recycling at this point, 2010, 30 to 40% recycling. And other countries are now learning from what we did in that period. The fact we're kind of stagnating at the moment is another issue, but that learning experience we've translated, and I've been out to other countries in Europe to explain how we did it. Behaviour change, raising awareness, and opportunities for recycling. And this is what we've done over the years. This is where we were 7 or 8 years ago, or 8 or 9 years ago. Predominantly landfill, some incineration, and recycling composting starting to increase. And then we've moved to about parity between landfill and composting, and I apologise, slightly different criteria here, but we're now at a very high percentage of incineration, and this is local authority collected waste, which is slightly different to MSW. But again, you'll see how it's swung away from landfill towards recycling and energy from waste. And again, if you look at the comparative statistics across Europe, the UK has dramatically reduced the amount went to landfill. We still do some, obviously, but this is crude waste to landfill, and some countries are defying the law of physics by not sending any material to landfill. No further comment. How have we done it? Well, we've done it through, as mentioned earlier, behaviour change, raising awareness, and opportunities for collecting that material and turning it into a decent product, but also from landfill tax. Landfill tax has gone up incrementally year on year, but when it pitched at about 10 years ago, £7 annual incremental increase, guaranteed for a period of time. It meant that we can invest in other technologies, and it's worthwhile investing in them when you get to £80 a tonne landfill tax. On top of that, you've got a gate fee. So it's then, at that stage, worth investing in alternative technologies. So landfill tax has had a dramatic effect in the UK, no doubt about that. Also, we're very keen on partnership working. I apologise for anybody from RAP here. This is a very old website of yours, but I think it gives more away than your new website. Please don't take that if you're a website designer. But it shows you the kind of partnership working that RAP are doing and still doing, despite the fact they're not funded directly from government quite so much as they were. So there are voluntary agreements here. There are arrangements about food waste and packaging. This is all good stuff, and there needs more of this in the UK. We need to sell this concept as well. RAP are selling a lot of their love food, hate waste concept around the globe. It's a great idea, it works well, it's easy to understand and easy to put into practice. So more partnership working is what we'd like to see. I said I'd just briefly mention some of the technologies. These are not unique to the UK by any means, but we're now not into landfill dumping, as you'd say. This is controlled landfill, lined sites, take away the leachate, and tap off the landfill gas. We've got a lot of generating landfill sites across the UK, and using that gas, it's making a big contribution to renewable energy. We've now got a lot more experience in contaminated land on-site treatment, whereas we used to dig and dump in my day, dig out a contaminated land and put it into a permitted site. Now it's better to treat it in situ. A lot of experience from the Olympics, highly contaminated industrial site. A lot of the material was treated on site, highly hard hydrocarbons, heavy metals. Treatment on site means you don't haul it, all your investment is into the treatment and you can reuse that material on site. Construction waste, we're now up to 70-80% recycling on construction waste. We've always had the technology to do it, but we've now got the standards to go with it and the protocols to go with it. So if you're specifying a secondary material, you know it's going to meet the same criteria as a primary material. It's probably cheaper, it's probably more locally sourced, and it's better. And again, this is linked to procurement around the Olympics. You had to put a certain amount of recycled material into the aggregate, say for concrete, has to be sourced locally. We can do a lot more through protocols, standards, and procurement to generate the opportunity to recycle these materials. Same as timber and soils reuse. AD is starting to take off in this country, nowhere as near as where it is in Germany, say, where they've got about 15,000 plants, but we're up into the hundreds now. These can be modular, they can take a variety of waste, obviously work better with a homogeneous feed rather than crude waste, but these are gathering apace, anaerobic digestion, gas back to the grid. And again, the outputs need to be standardized. We can't be putting materials back into the soil, no matter how beneficial it might be, if there's going to be contamination later on. The last thing you want is to be drinking your malt whiskey in 20 years' time to find out it's been polluted by contaminated AD material gone to the land. So we've got to be absolutely sure this material meets the standard before it's disposed of. We've all got to follow the waste hierarchy, and the natural extension of the hierarchy is circular economy. These are the principles which we must be taking on. The hierarchy was in earlier legislation, and the circular economy is where we're going now. Resource efficiency. So we move from a linear track, take the materials, make something, use it, dispose of it, into a much more circular, whether it's a biological or an organic or a mechanized circular loop. Use the materials, reuse the materials, remanufacture, and only then do you think about recycling or disposal. So where are the real opportunities for us, not just in the UK, but exportability? Well, it is in that cycle of utility, that circular economy, that resource efficiency, to get the materials, to keep the materials that we can keep into production and remanufacture where we can. There's a good piece of work done by the Royal Society of Arts where they take apart two PCs. One they can take apart with an Allen key and a screwdriver, the other one needs an axe. Now if you can take it apart, take out whatever you need, the motherboard, and remanufacture it, it's a far better product than smashing it up to get the elements out of that and then have to reprocess them. So it's about design for reuse or remanufacture, not design for single use. And cross-sector working, I think there's an awful lot. I mentioned partnerships earlier. There's an awful lot more we can do by linking the climate change with resource efficiency, with designers and manufacturers, logistics, and energy production. There's an awful lot of cross-working. We shouldn't be seeing ourselves in this waste bubble. Just because we've got the waste anorak doesn't mean we can't get other badges to go on it. And there are great opportunities. If we look at just the waste and recycling sector, at £14 billion a year, it makes a big impact, particularly compared to some of the sectors which might be on the decline. Ours definitely isn't. These are some of the opportunities that we've taken overseas and that are out there. We are doing training in a variety of countries, or looking at doing training in a variety of countries, because they want our technical expertise, they want our competence testing and assurance. There are many consultants who are working on strategic documents and policies overseas. Manufacturing, I mentioned earlier about things like landfill gas testing, leachate. These are expertise we have in this country. We manufacture this and we can export it. And partnership programs. I've just been talking to some Chinese delegates who want to look at contaminated land, but they don't want to, as government officials, they don't want to deal with individual companies. They want an overarching either government or association link so they can draw together the expertise. And we do a variety of conferences, workshops and awards. Just to mention, so we were involved in quite a number of incoming trade missions over the last few years. We've had missions from Nigeria, UAE, Malaysia, Australia, St Helena, and we've been out to Panama. And in addition to that, we've done work in quite a number of other countries, European and overseas. They come to us for not just technical advice about where they should go to talk to the right person, or where they should make the right partnerships, but they want to see this bit of kit, or they want to see the person in action, so we can facilitate that as an organisation. As I said, we've got members across the industry, and our members come to us with an opportunity, and we can provide them with a link up through DIT into an overseas opportunity. And we do a variety of site visits, either regionally or nationally, and provide market advice. Get a number of people who come to us with a great idea and wanting to test it on our expertise, which we can provide.
This is just a very brief canter really through what the Department for International Trade can do for you, and it really follows on from what Chris was saying. The idea of free trade and selling our expertise and kit and in welcoming new ideas from other countries, I don't think is new, but there obviously is a renewed vigour in our enthusiasm for this. So the DIT is putting a little bit of resource into it now, and I'm just going to explain a little bit about how we do that, and then perhaps we can talk about what people here have to offer. Just a little bit of explaining about how we operate. We have people in countries around the world in all the embassies. We have the sector teams in the headquarters in Whitehall in London, and we have international trade advisors around the country to provide direct support to companies. And if there's any UK companies sitting here who haven't got an ITA, an international trade advisor, please come and see me afterwards and we'll fix somebody up. The commercial officers, I think, are really the key to what we do. In every single embassy, there is somebody whose job it is to facilitate trade from the UK. And they really understand, often locally engaged, sometimes they're British people who've worked in that market for a while. And they understand the market there, so they'll understand the regulations, how to set up a company, what sort of permitting you need, whether you need a local partner, who the local partners might be, how to do due diligence on those, and what sort of companies you might want to pair up with. And then other issues like visa issues, how to set up a company, how to get somewhere to live, which are the good restaurants in that town, absolutely everything. They're your local friend in the market. And for me, I've gone and visited a few posts around the world, and it's really quite interesting to see, how well connected they are in markets which they don't necessarily understand that well to begin with, but once they get their teeth into it, the waste management and energy market, I think, is one that's very exciting. Certainly for the UK, it's a very big market, and the countries that are interested in UK expertise is a list as long as your arm. So Chris has mentioned a few of them. I mean, the Panamanian example is interesting because not because it's a big market, it's a very small country, but because they had a very strong political driver to clean up the waste in their country. There's a whole range of reasons you might do that, from PR and tourism to improving your environment. And their president got elected on a platform of wanting to address this issue, and they are putting resources into it, and their municipalities and private companies are all addressing that issue. And so that means there's an open door. They're interested in UK companies, they're knocking on the door of our embassy, and there are British companies now doing work for some municipalities and for some private companies as well. And Panama's an interesting country because they've actually got quite a lot of money in the country because they widened the canal, they widened the Panama Canal, actually built a new section of it. So there's money in the system to actually do something in a sophisticated way. Some of the other markets we're looking at that are a priority for the UK government are India, East Africa, China and Indonesia. All of them are big complex countries, and again we have teams of people in each of those countries who are based in different cities and have good connections with municipalities. One of the things they do is keep an eye on the contracts that are published, see what's coming up, and they pass those through to us, and there's a website where you can access those and find out about them. And they're all different levels, from landfill remediation and consultancy to providing balers and boilers and bits of kit. We have sector teams at 55 Whitehall now on our new address for the new department, and there are sectors for all sorts of different projects. I actually sit in the energy sector, in the renewable energy sector, which is one place that waste management can sit, I suppose. I mean, there's lots of different options, and we work closely with the infrastructure sector who deal with water and transport and other kit. But I'm your first contact in the waste team, which we're gradually building up, and simply a link between the UK companies and posts abroad. And then your international trade advisors are a team of people throughout the UK who's your local contact. So they're based on a regional basis. If you're in London or the East of England or the West Midlands ITAs are here in force as it's on their doorstep, but they tend to understand the waste sector a bit better. They're not sector specialists, but they understand, again, the process of doing business abroad. And if they don't have the answer to any questions you have, they'll know where to find it. And this website at the bottom, opportunities.export.great.gov, is where a lot of the contracts abroad are published. So I'd recommend that you register on that, and you'll get a steady flow of emails from all sorts of countries, many of which you can ignore, and then once you've decided which markets you're interested in, follow those up, talk to our posts, talk to me, and we can follow those up. And really just to emphasize, the markets that I've mentioned and others are banging on our door hard for UK expertise. And the UK offer is very strong in things like consultancy and market analysis and strategy development. But it's also fairly strong in actually developing things like anaerobic digestion. We've got a lot of refuse vehicles that are actually manufactured in this country. We've got people that manufacture balers, sorting equipment. There are some boiler manufacturers, turbines, bins. We do actually deliver the entire supply chain in this country. Not always market leaders, but many of them are. And so the UK offer is actually very strong. So if you want to partner up with other companies, you can do that, certainly from UK companies. The UK offer is often technology agnostic or company agnostic. So one of the strengths that UK consultants often offer is that they won't necessarily recommend particular companies because they're not in bed with any of them, which may be the case with some other nationalities. But if you're a UK consultant, you want to recommend German technology or French technology, that's also absolutely fine. But the point is the quality of service that you deliver. And then this is just the other side of the equation. If you're a foreign company wanting to invest in the UK, we're also on the lookout for interesting new technologies. The name of the game is really generating jobs and economic growth. So we have another team of people called the Investment Services team, and colleagues of mine are here today. And their job is to look after foreign companies coming into the UK. Again, explain to them how to set up a business in the UK, supply them with some of the sources of information, tell them how the permitting and planning system works up to a degree, introduce them to local partners, help with visas, recruitment, finding sites, a whole range of services. And those colleagues, again, they're specialists in the area of waste management and energy and can deliver a really good service. So my email is at the bottom there, deborah.sachs@trade.gsi.gov.uk, and really my plea today is to get in touch. If you haven't thought about working abroad, now just think about it here. There are a lot of really excellent foreign companies working in the UK, and my wish is that some of those UK companies could now open their eyes and look at some of the opportunities abroad, because there's a lot to be done. Thank you very much.